What is up, homies? My name is Felix and I am here back again with another video for you guys. And today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a trap beat for beginners in LMMS, but this is the updated 2020 version. So I have the 2019 version and then I have the old version that I made originally. So if you want to get caught up on everything that most of the people watching right now probably know, you can go and watch those videos. I'll leave a link somewhere so that you can go and do that. But yeah, so for this video I'm just going to be showing you guys, some new things, some new updated tips and tricks that I have that'll help you learn how to make a beat even if you have no prior musical experience at all. So yeah, before we get into it, you guys should check out my Instagram and my SoundCloud, which will both be down in the description below, along with the playlist of songs I've produced, my beat store, my Discord, all that stuff down in the description below. And yeah, now let's get into this video. So to start this one off, there's two main things that I want to show you guys before we even get into LMMS. So I'm going to go here and then I'm going to pull up Google. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to download drum kits and how to download VST plugins. And these are going to be two things that come in really handy and you're probably going to use them a lot, because I think even as a beginner we should be past the point of using stock sounds and stock plugins. In 2020 I think we should be past that point. So yeah, to start off with drum kits, what you got to do, you got to go to Google and search up freedrumkits.net, as you can see up here, or you can go to r/drumkits and that'll have a lot of sounds for you too, but I'm just going to be showing you through free drum kits. So go here to free, and then you can look here and click on any one of these that you want. So I'm just going to click on this one just for an example. And now it's going to download instantly. You might have to put in your email or something, but it might download instantly too. Who knows? So I'm going to go to show in folder on this little arrow, show in folder. And then it's going to show up right here in your downloads folder. And then you're just going to right click and do cut. And now basically you're going to choose wherever you want to keep all of your drum sounds. So I have a folder for that already, but you might need to create a folder. So mine is in here and then in here. And now you're just going to right click at the top here and then do paste. And now it's going to paste this in here. And then you can right click again and hit extract all. And then just hit extract. Now you can right click on the zip folder and then just go to delete. And now we can go up and find where the drum kit actually is. So it should be under F. And it's going to be this one right here. And as you can see, the West Coast drum kit. And it's going to have all your sounds inside of here. So as you can see, all the sounds are here. Another thing you can do is you can click here and then just do cut and then paste this into here so that you don't have an unnecessary folder, because as you can see, you clicked on it and then there was another folder that you needed to click on. So you can just move this so that it's not so complicated. And now if you click on it, it'll just go straight to the sounds right here. So yeah, that's how you download drum kits. And now for downloading VST plugins, it's pretty much like the same process. So what you can do is you can search up vstforfree.com, which is really the best place to get free VST plugins. I know there's other websites as well, but this is, the one that I like to go to. So I usually go and I click best rated and then I just do random. And then I just keep randomizing until I see one that looks like it might be good. And just for the sake of this video, I'm going to click on this weird one, this Rio Tom's one. So I'm just going to go Windows because I have Windows. Also, one thing that I forgot to mention for LMMS on Mac, I don't think you can use VST plugins, but what you can do is you can search for sound fonts, and you should be able to use sound fonts. I'm not totally sure on that one, but I think you can use them. But anyway, so I'm just going to click on 32 because LMMS is 32-bit, so I'm just going to do that and then wait for it to download down here. And now we're basically going to do the same thing that we did with the drum kit. So we're going to click on this arrow, do show in folder, and now right click and then cut, and now we're going to paste this one in wherever we want to keep all our plugins at. So I have a separate folder for that as well, so I'm going to go into that. But as I said, with the drum kits one, you might need to create a new one if you're very first starting out. So once you get to your folder, you're going to right click and then paste, just like we did with the drum kit. And then again, we're going to right click, extract all, and then click again and then delete. And now we're going to find where it's at, and it's right here. As you can see, it has the .dll file, which is the actual VST plugin file. So yeah, we don't have to do anything extra, but sometimes when you download plugins, it'll have a .exe, and basically that's just the installer. So you just click on that, do what it says, agree to the terms of service, and then you'll get a .dll out of it as well. So yeah, so now that we have that out of the way and you guys know how to download drum kits and plugins, we can go back into LMMS and start making the beat. So with the controller rack, we're not going to need this, but the three things that we probably will need are these: the beat and bass on editor, the effects mixer, and the song editor. So with the song editor, you can go in and do remove this track, remove that track, and remove this track. And all you want to have is the beat and bassline editor, because since this is a beginner tutorial, I'm not going to be doing a whole bunch of fancy stuff with, automations or sampling and whatnot. And basically the song editor is where you're going to take whatever you make inside of here, which is the beat and bassline editor, and make this into a full song in here, because the beat and bassline editor is for making, smaller patterns, and then you take those smaller patterns and put them together in the song editor to make, a full song. So another thing in the beat and bassline editor that we can get rid of is the kicker, because we're not going to use that. We're going to use the drum sounds that we downloaded. And now the other thing that might be important is the effects mixer, and this is the master track. So anything that you play in LMMS will go through here and it'll play out of here. If you bring this volume down, you'll hear nothing at all. And if you right click, you can reset it. And then you can also actually assign individual sounds to mixer tracks and do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. But for now, I'm not really going to do anything too crazy with the effects mixer. But what I am going to do is go to the master track, go to add effect, and then at the top search declipper, and now click on it, and then you don't have to do anything at all. We can just leave it. Basically what the declipper does is it makes sure that nothing goes above 0 decibels, because 0 decibels is where you want the cap of your sounds to be. You don't want anything to go above there, and the declipper just does that for you. And it also makes your drums kind of slap harder, and it gets rid of some of that muddiness that you might be hearing when we make our actual beat. So the first thing that I'm going to do is X out of this, and we can X out of this, and we're just going to focus on the beat and bassline editor. So I'm going to look for some drum sounds in one of the drum kits that I downloaded, and then I'll bring them in here. So basically you're just going to go to the sidebar over here, probably click my home that you pasted your drum sounds to, and then open that up and just drag in your sounds from there. So as you can see here, I dragged in 6 different sounds, and the sounds are going to be this kick, this 808, this clap, this snare, this hi-hat, and this open hi-hat. And basically these are the typical sounds that you kind of want to have when you're bringing in drums in order to make a trap beat, because you want to have a main clapper snare that keeps the tempo, you want to have a hi-hat that goes throughout the whole thing, then you want to have a kick to make the rhythm, and then you want to have an 808 for that low end, and then the open hi-hat is optional, but I just like the way it sounds because it just adds like something else in there and it makes it sound good. So what I'm going to do is start off by clicking this 3 times. And basically this is going to be 4 bars now. So as you can see, this has these columns, and a bar is going to be 4 of these columns next to each other. So as you can see, there's 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, and then 4 here at the end. So like I said, 4 bars. And now with your clap and or snare, you're going to put it in the middle of every bar. So just like this. As you can see, it's basically right in the middle of this bar, and then you're going to do that for every single one. And now the next super easy thing that you're going to do is take your hi-hat and place it every other little rectangle. And now once you do that, it should be kind of starting to sound like a real beat. And you might be able to hear that this hi-hat is way more in the left ear than it is in the right ear. And basically that is what the pan knob does. So the pan, if you pull it to the left, it's going to go way into your left ear. But if you put it to the right, it's going to go into your right ear. And since this original sample is into our left ear, we're going to put it more to the right, just a little bit, so that it puts it right back in the middle. And then obviously this one on the left is going to be the volume knob, so if we turn this down, it's going to make it quieter, and if we turn it to the right, it's going to make it louder. So basically with the volume knobs, you're going to adjust it so that no sound is super loud and no sound is super quiet. They all kind of mesh well together. And that's basically the ultimate goal when you are adjusting the volumes and pulling in sounds. So the next thing that I'm going to do is place my open hi-hat right after the first clap and then right after the third clap. So now it's going to sound kind of like this. And that's basically just going to add like a little bit of a bounce, but now the real bounce comes with a kick. So basically when it comes to the kicks and when it comes to drum patterns, it's all up to you, and it's all up to you practicing and figuring out what sounds the best and what kind of patterns you really like. But the one thing that I can say is that it's probably not usually a good idea to put any sound like right next to another sound, because this is going to sound a little bit weird, as you'll be able to hear. So like I said, sounds a little bit weird, sounds a little bit rushed. So what you want to do is leave probably usually at least one space in between stuff. So if I play this now, it's got a lot more bounce and it sounds a lot better. So I'm going to finish out this kick pattern. So I basically just did this for 2 bars, and now I'm going to kind of copy it over, but I'm going to add a little bit of a variation, kind of like this. So now it's going to sound like this. So already, as you can hear, it's starting to sound like a trap beat. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually bring in two different plugins. One that's kind of going to be the main sound, and another one that's going to be like a backup, counter melody kind of sound. Also, one thing that I forgot to mention is I'm keeping the tempo at 140 BPM because, people say that's like the typical trap tempo. And honestly, these days 140 isn't the most common tempo. Beats these days are actually a lot faster, like maybe 160 BPM or something, but I'm just going to keep it at 140 because it's pretty standard. So yeah, basically I'm just going to go to the folder where I keep all my plugins, just kind of the same way that we did with our drum kits. So I'm going to click on this Iota Mini plugin. I'm going to use this as the bass sound. And now I'm also going to use this plugin called Redtron and bring this in here as well. And both of these are plugins that you can download right now and, start making beats with. So right now I'm going to select one of these sounds in Iota Mini to make some chords out of. So I'm going to choose this Fable piano preset, and then I'm going to go into Redtron and then choose maybe like a violin or a flute or something. So I just chose this violin sound, and now I can exit out of both of these. For the melody, it's usually a smart idea to start with the chords. So I'm going to go to Iota Mini and then just do right click, open in piano roll. So now that we're in the piano roll, as you can see, these are the notes on the side. There's a little piano. And then this up here that says last note is going to be how big your note size is. So if it's on last note, as you can imagine, it's just going to bring up the last note that you placed. And then if it's on any one of these, it'll be a different, increment. So if you put it on 1, it's going to be 1 bar. If you put it on 1/2, it's going to be a 1/2 bar, and, so on and so forth. And then this is your snap to grid. So if you have it really low, if you have it like this, your snap to grid is only going to be a 1/2 bar because it's on 1/2 here. But then if you do this, it's going to be, 1/16 of a bar. So you can do any increment that's in, this 1/16 of this bar. And then also if you go like really low down here, you'll get a lot more increments. But I usually like to keep it on either 16 or 32 because those are kind of the best, snap to grids that there is. Then this right here is your zoom, and you can zoom in and, get a closer look on what you're doing. And then this here is what you use for scale highlighting. So if I go to major and then I click on G here and do mark current scale, this is going to show me all the notes that are in the G major scale, and this is super helpful. I actually didn't know about this for a super long time until somebody told me, but yeah, super helpful, and this will help you make melodies a lot faster. Also, you might notice that I have all my letters here on the side, and yours might not have that. What you can do is go to edit and then settings, and then just click on enable note labels in piano roll, and then just do OK. And then it'll say this, and it says the changes won't take effect until you restart LMMS. Basically just restart LMMS, and now you'll have these looking like mine. So I'm just going to do minor or Aeolian, and I'm just going to click on E minor for this one. So right click, mark current scale, and now these are all the notes within E minor. And now I'm actually going to skip ahead while I make the chords because I do have a video on how to make chords and chord progressions, and that's a whole, separate video in of itself. So if you need help with that, definitely go check out that video, and that should help you a lot and should get you, on the right track for starting making chords and chord progressions and stuff like that. So yeah. Alright, so I just came up with this little chord progression, and it's going to sound like this. So now what I'm going to do is hit Control and Shift at the same time, and then select all these bottom notes, and then I'm going to do Shift and click to the side, release that, and now do Control and down. And now this just adds bass notes to these chords to make them sound more fuller. And as you can see, I adjusted the velocity there, so these aren't as loud as these top ones. And the velocity is essentially just the volume that the notes are being played at. So now what I'm going to do is hit Control A, and now Shift and click this over. And now I'm going to add a top melody over this whole thing, and then add some variation here at the end. So basically with making your top melodies, and a top melody is just a little melody that goes over the top like this. Something like that goes throughout the whole thing, and it just adds, a little bit of variation and a little bit more bounce with your chords and your melodies. Alright, so basically I just came up with this little melody, and it sounds pretty nice, I think. It's kind of spooky, but kind of also not at the same time. Hard to explain, but it sounds nice. So now one thing you can do with your melodies is either pitch it up or down. So the way you do that is you hold down Shift and then just do down or up. But I'm just going to do this down 2. And this is going to now be in the key of D Aeolian or D minor. And now it'll have a little bit of a different vibe to it. So now what I'm going to do is start to work on the little violin melody, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go into the piano roll here again, and I'm just going to copy these bottom notes. So you can just hold down Control, select, and then just do Control C, and now X out of this, go back in here, and then just do Control V in here. And now we can pitch these up, so hit Control and then up twice. As you can hear, that is a violin. So basically the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to go in and just add a couple new notes, like maybe here. And that's going to, add some bounce and just make this into, like a complete melody. Alright, so now that I have this 4-bar pattern, I'm just going to do Control A, shift click it over, and now I'm going to add some variation on this side. Alright, so this might look a little bit complicated, but it's essentially just the same bass notes that I had with the chords, just change around a little bit. So as you can see, I just added this note here, and then I separated this into like 3 parts, so it was like 1 note here, but I just brought this down, and then this note was originally here, but I brought it down because it sounded better, and then I just, added this here, and as you saw, I just copied the first 4 bars over, and then I just, added some variation to make it different from the other half, and now it sounds all like this. So the last thing that I'm going to do here is just pitch this down an octave, and an octave is basically from, let's say, this D right here to this D right here. So it's essentially the same note but 12 notes apart. Kind of confusing, but also you probably understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to just pitch this down by doing Control and then down, and now together these should sound like this. So I'm going to solo these, so the way you do that is you just click on this little rectangle to the side, and now you click on this left one of whichever ones you want to play with it. So if I want to play the hi-hat with it, I'll click that one, but I just want to play the melodic parts. So yeah, it sounds nice. As you can hear, kind of spooky sounding, kind of sad sounding. So one of the last things I'm going to do is work on the 808 pattern, but before I do that, there's 2 different things that I want to do with the drums to kind of spice them up a little bit. So with the snares, I want to add a little bit of bounce. So I'm going to just go like this and like this. And this is a pattern that you'll probably recognize pretty quickly. And that is a super common pattern with snares in trap music. A lot of producers use that, a lot of songs use that. So I'm just going to do the same thing that I did here, over here, except for without this first one. And then I'm just going to do these at the end like this, and I think it should sound good. Also, I'm going to get rid of this kick because I don't like it. So I think that sounds nice, and now the second thing I'm going to do is with the hi-hats. So if you go into your piano roll, and now I'm going to zoom in, and now I'm going to switch the snap to grid to 32, and now I'm just going to make a bunch of hi-hat rolls. So you can go like this, and now this will have a cool sounding hi-hat roll like this. And that's basically just going to lead right up into the clap. And what I actually like to do is adjust the velocity so it, keeps it fresh and keeps it new. And now basically I'm just going to go through the rest of this pattern and add some hi-hat rolls wherever I see fit. Alright, so basically what I did with the hi-hat rolls is I just made this little, roll here that leads into the first clap, and then I kind of copied it over here, except for I made this one lower down, and then I also added these triple rolls that are a little bit before the second and fourth claps, and they repeat here and here, and then I just added these, down low here and these down low here, and now the whole thing should sound like this. So yeah, that sounds pretty nice. Sounds like an actual trap drum pattern now. And the last thing that I'm going to do is go into the iota mini, and now I'm going to copy these bass notes again like we did before, do Control C, and now I'm going to go into the piano roll with these, do Control V, and now I'm going to leave this here for a second because there's a couple things you need to do with your 808. So I'm going to click on this, and it'll bring up the little audio file processor thingy. and I'm going to go in here and turn up the amount, and I'll turn up the attack just a little bit, and that's going to get rid of your clicking noise that you're going to hear with your 808s, because that's incredibly annoying. I actually have a whole little video on that because it's a super important thing that most people need to, fix with their beats, and that'll just give you a lot cleaner sound with your 808s. And then the other thing that you want to do is click this to C, and some 808s might not actually be playing the note C, but the majority of the time your 808s are going to be at C, so you can just click it to C. Also, sometimes your 808 samples will say, in parentheses C next to them, or parentheses G, so that's going to be the note that you click on when you're doing this. Instead of C, like let's say it does say G there, you're just going to click on G instead. Alright, so now that that is out of the way, we can go into the piano roll for the 808, and now we're going to pitch this up 2 octaves, so hit Control twice. And now that we have this in the proper octave, what we're going to do also is go into the kick piano roll, and now do Control A and then Control C with this, and now we're going to go back into the 808 piano roll and do Control V. And now essentially what we have set up here is this is going to be where we know to place our 808s at. So basically you're just going to click in notes to match up with the pattern on the bottom here, and make sure that the notes that you're clicking are the notes that are, the bass notes as we have here. And then you're just going to do that for the whole 4-bar pattern. Alright, so now that we have this matched up with a kick pattern, we can just do Control, select all these, and then delete. And now this should match up with our kick, so it's going to sound like this together. And it's going to cut off there because the drums are a 4-bar pattern and the melody is an 8-bar pattern. But what we have to do is separate all these into their own beat and bassline editor so that we can place them all into the song editor individually. And basically the way that we separate all these into their own beat and bassline editor is we do right click, copy, create a new beat and bassline editor with this button, and now do paste, go back into the original one, and then just do clear all notes. And now this will be in here instead of in here. And now you're just going to do that with every single one of these sounds. Alright, so now that I've separated all these into their own beat and bassline editor, what you can actually do is rename them so you know what they actually are. So I'm going to do right click, and now just get rid of this one and do violin, because that's what this one is, as you can see here. And as I just showed you also, you can just click in these, and that'll bring up these patterns inside of your song editor. Alright, so I just renamed all of these, and now what I'm going to do is select this little square thing, do Control, and then hold Control again and click this over, and now we're going to have this matching up together, and this is going to be 8 bars. What we want to do is make 32 bars. So I'm going to do this, now this 16, and now it's 32. So I'm going to hold down Control, select, and then drag this over so that we have 16 bars of space here. Now I'm going to do a little intro thing. So I'm going to do the piano here and then the piano here. And now I'm going to bring in the hi-hats. And now I'm going to bring in the claps and the snares. And then after these 8 bars, all the drums are going to drop in at the same time. As you can hear, like that. So now, in order for the beat to not get too repetitive, I'm going to take out the violin at the end of the first 16 bars, and then at the end of the second 16 bars, and then I'm also going to do the same thing with the hi-hat. And now this is just going to add a little bit of variation as these two sections transition into one another. And the last thing that I'm going to do is change to the little pencil tool, and now take the hi-hat and just drag it a little bit like this. And now this is just going to add a little bit of suspense, I guess you could say, before the drums drop in. So I think that sounds nice, and now I'm just basically going to zoom out to 50, and now Control, select all these, Control, copy it over, and yeah, that's pretty much just like a simple way to lay out your beats. And now we just turned all our little patterns into a full song. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for me in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys were able to learn something, maybe learn a thing or two that you didn't know before, and hopefully you're able to be making some fire trap beats in LMMS now. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys check out my Instagram, my SoundCloud down in the description below, along with the playlist of songs I produced, all that stuff down there, and I will see you guys next time.
Turn me up, let's go. Damn, I feel like the man now, yeah. I cannot turn bands down, yeah. Chopper make them stand down, yeah. Got these bitches running wild, yeah. Like a thug in the night.